Hi, everybody, and welcome to this next edition of our show that we call Market Makers, where only the top market guys come and talk to me, and I go and talk to them. Today's guest is Sandeep Sikka. As usual, needs no introduction. CEO and ED now, shortly to be FD of Nippon Mutual Fund, Nippon Asset Management, and a real long-term industry veteran. Uh, Most people won't need any introduction as far as Sandeep is concerned. So, Sandeep, really welcome to our show. Glad to have you here.
Well, thanks a lot for inviting me.
So, before we get down to the nitty gritty, just wanted to congratulate you on two fairly significant feathers in the cap over the last couple of weeks. One is that you have been appointed managing director and CEO starting from April next year in an institution where you've been for such a long time. Practically, I remember that you were practically founder of this. All said and done, 22 years before you guys came on board. I guess the mutual fund was just a thought in someone's mind. So many congratulations on that. Recognition of the great performance and the association with the group. And secondly, of course, Amphi chair. This is your second term as Amphi chair. So we'll talk about that a bit later. But congratulations on that.
Thanks a lot for your good wishes. Thank you so much.
Great. So, let's just kick off because, like all of us know, attention spans are short, and we must try and make sure that we are to the point and crisp and so on. So, starting with the point I just made, 2003 to now, with the same mutual fund, having built it practically from scratch, how has the journey been? And any pointers to people who would like to kind of emulate this progression in terms of your personal career, as well as the way you have grown the the firm?
So, thanks a lot for having me. I think this is the most difficult question you've asked me. To sum up what we have done, the entire journey of 20 last 20 to 23 years in the next 20 minutes, I think it's not going to be easy. But let me tell you, I think it's been one of the most satisfying journey, both professionally and personally. And let me start basically from a personal point of view and more. I think it's an honor and privilege to be a part of this industry where you're helping people to create wealth. I think there is a big difference when you see this as a pure mutual fund or you see it as an asset management company. You got a commercial angle to it. But someone like us, which is a very retail AMC, I think having investors in 100% of pin code, 100% districts of India, 99% of pin codes of India. When you go to the small cities and towns, I mean, it's unbelievable. It feels so satisfying when people say that I think we have created wealth because of you. And I think I personally feel after medical, being a doctor, this is the most noble profession to be in. So
Absolutely.
that's point number one. And that's one of the reason with that purpose, I think today I continue. I think I am in the same company, in the same role, almost for 23 years. And a lot of people ask me this question. Two questions come to me. How has this journey been and why are you still there? 23 years, people, in this is industry many times. Uh, the CEOs or the mutual fund CIOs change faster than the stocks in the portfolio. But I think you've been, I mean, there for so long. What takes you? I think it's that sense of satisfaction, the sense of purpose that we are creating an impact in the lives of so many individuals. So that is point number one. To starting about the journey, I think I remember, I think when I think couple of us came together in 2003, between 3 and 5. At that time, this was a very small mutual fund. And it was a very interesting, at that time, two things were the industry was small, and at the same time, the mutual fund was small. So, and most at that point of time, way back in 2003, most mutual funds were backed by big banks. You know,
Correct.
uh, so I think here we had a very interesting situation. I think I mean, I can say at that time I was relatively young. I was in my late 20s, came together. I think you go out in the market and wherever you go, you see a mutual fund. If it's doing well, it's supported by a bank. And here you are not supported by any bank. So that's the time we thought. I think on one side, we are fighting two battles. On one side, the battle was basically mutual fund was not as popular as it is today. That is point number one. And the second one was, I think you do not have a bank. So what do you do? And for us at that point of time, we saw an opportunity. We said, I think if you don't have a bank, there are two ways to look at it. One is, I think you can't change your parent. I mean, ultimately, if you don't have a bank, you don't have a bank. आपको जो करना है वो करना पड़ेगा. Let's try
Welcome.
to convert this as an opportunity. And as we said, I think let's forget all the banks for a minute. I think let's build up a retail network in small cities and towns, the IFAs and all. And between 2003 to 2008 or 9, I think that's what we were doing. And the fact that what was our handicap at that point of time, I think based on how we worked on it, today has become a bigger strength. I think today our IFA network, small cities and towns, the whole thing has changed. And what is more satisfying is I think when we were going to the smaller cities and towns at that point of time, mutual fund was an alien word. Let me give you an anecdote, which is actually real life. In 2000, my father retired from government service. And that's the time, in government service, you get a pool of money, aapko paisa mila. And I think typically at that time, I was the young in my 20s. I was asked this question. My father asked me, kahan pe lagaun? And I was, I mean, clearly it should be mutual fund. And all his friends and all did not have belief in mutual funds. They convinced him. They used to tell him, बेटा म्यूचुअल फंड में है तो म्यूचुअल फंड में क्या है ना वो टारगेट के चक्कर में आपको बोल रहा है दिस इज नॉट द वे रिटायरमेंट पैसा बहुत लंबा लगना होता है फास्ट फॉरवर्ड today he is basically the biggest staunch supporter of mutual funds. I think after 25 years of his retirement his entire wealth is in mutual fund. But I want to fast forward. Last year my daughter started working after her education. And the first salary she got, she asked me, where should I do my SIP? Now, this is the big change that we have seen.
Very true.
So I think this journey has been really satisfying. I can go a lot more into details, but I think the overall environment has changed a lot. The mutual fund is today no more an alien word. It is basically sought after, product in the financial category. The other big change I like to just touch upon is, I think because, sorry, a long answer, but
No, not at all.
you got me in that trap. You asked me for 23-year journey in one question. I'm not going to let you go like that. Huh? So let me, so it's interesting. I think when we started way back in 3 and 4, 5, at that time, the one of the biggest things, because at that time the industry was small, a lot of focus used to be on asset gathering. NFOs used to be big, getting money used to be important, scale was, building up scale was important. Fast forward, 20 years later, I think it's not about scale. It's about the value addition that you're doing to the investor. At that point of time, it was all about returns. Right now, it's all about risk management. So a lot has changed in the industry. And I think for me, I think I take it while it's been 20 years, or 20 years plus, every bucket of 2, 3 years, it's sort of like doing 10 different jobs. Every 2 years, the environment changed. And we also fortunately went through multiple changes, got listed. We acquired Goldman Sachs. We then became a foreign AMC. A lot of
Right.
these things. So it's been 23 years. Looks like, every day morning, when I come to office, Manoj, I can tell you, I still have a feeling of nervousness that you typically a management trainee has when he joins the job, because I feel everything is changing so fast and every day is a new day.
So, a couple of things I must first let me tell you that, it's going to be very interesting. So our first, prior to the interview conversation, that we got to be careful of the time. Even if it goes longer, don't worry, we split it into two, and we'll keep two short episodes. So that's by way of, don't worry too much about timing. Please be, complete in your description. The second point I will tell you from your father's experience. I left my last longest job, and like you, I spent 15 years at it at BNP Paribas, and I had a fairly significant amount as Provident Fund money because I've been voluntarily contributing. Believe me, 70% of that went into Nippon Nivesh Lakshya. That time it
Right.
was plus. And believe me, it's still there, and it's given me a 9% XIRR. So over 7 years, 2018 to today. So I'm a very big fan, and believe me, the reason was that there was no choice at that time for the longest dated, safest kind of investment. Your fund was the only one which has a 20-25 year duration. So I just wanted to share that as a sidelight.
No, it's a very interesting thing you touched. Now I'm going to just take up this conversation.
Sure.
So I think when you talked about Nivesh Lakshya, I think it's a lot. It's not just about the product which has a 20-year maturity. It is also our belief. How do you keep products as simple as possible? So I think I want to even share with you. I think when we were conceiving this product, one of the things that we thought was, why will anybody invest? Someone asked this question, why will anybody invest? Because there is no active fund management in this. आपने लिया लगा दिया तो क्या इसके बाद
सही
तो ये
बात
तो आदमी खुद भी कर सकता है. But
है.
the reality here is, I think what I believe the secret sauce to be successful in mutual fund industry, and this is true not only for retail, for HNI, keep it as simple as possible, and I think that's been our mantra. I think from our point of view, Nivesh Lakshya, or whether it's the ETFs or the passive funds, the idea is keep it simple. The more simple you keep, the more people understand. The more people understand, the more they'll have confidence in you, they'll have trust in you, and they'll put more money in you. And that's what you did, Mohit. Thank you so much.
And by the way, if you look at all other debt funds, most of the collections as well as the sales are towards shorter dated. Debt hai to short hona chahiye, safe hona chahiye. Just, contrary to most of us, like professionals
Yes.
who. And I had a question which was going to happen later, but I must say it now, which is about Nifty Bees, right? And maybe we should have a more general comment on your focus on ETFs, which was, I think, very early. You were amongst the early ones, and that has got Nifty Bees to where it is today. It's the trading instrument of choice, because people like me, again, many don't know, and it must be the same for you, that we become sensitive employees say 25 years ago. So we are not allowed to invest in active, kind of equities or whatever. So mutual funds are only recourse. And to that extent, Nifty Bees has presented a great option. So can I have a comment on, maybe I'm kind of upfronting a
Yes.
question, but on your ETF focus, how did you become a market leader in ETFs? Was it conscious, unconscious, again, keeping it simple possibly as a philosophy?
No, I think broadly there are two parts to it. Again, I think I'll say it's first, definitely it's keeping it simple was a part of the game. So let me step back. I think I remember, I think we acquired this business, from Goldman Sachs at that point of time, which was earlier acquired. They had acquired from Benchmark. And the company got integrated in our company on 7th of November, 2017. Hmm. At that point of time, the total assets were about 6,000 crores and the total investors were 42,000 crores. Hmm. 42,000
Okay.
investors, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Fast forward today, that 7,000 crores is about 2 lakh crores. Hmm? And 42,000 investors is 1.5 crore investors.
Wow.
So I think the point I
Awesome.
want to make, I think again, from our point of view, and specifically, let me tell you, as a company and as a CEO, my thought process is very simple. I think we have to get our biases away. Many times our biases decide what is good or bad. I think today what we have to think is what is the investor thinking, what is happening across the globe. And let me give you I'll share with you. I think when we acquired this, I remember it will be online.
Yeah.
There's a media interview. Someone asked me the question, someone in media and also industry colleague. Mm, संदीप यू अबाउट गेटिंग इनटू पैसिव बिजनेस आप तो एक्टिव वाले हो सारा अपने अपने पेट पे लात मार रहे हो and my answer to that media query as well as to my friend in the industry was very simple. I think I see it very differently. I think we'll have to do what is right for the investor. If investor has decided to do passive everywhere in the world, it will happen in India also. I do not know when. But I think it cannot be that I think you have a build up a case saying that because I'm big and active, I will not look at passive.
Good
We
point.
will offer both. Let the investor decide what he has to do. I mean, we are no one to
Very
decide.
true.
And from our point of view, I think this becomes more important. Many times, uh, people look at either top line or the bottom line. The approach has to be very different. Keep the investor in the center, let him decide what he has to choose, and everything ecosystem has to move around that. And when I shared this with you, I think with the ETF of
Yeah.
almost touching 2 lakh crores, uh, this standalone becomes one of the 10th largest AMC. If we were to, from a profitability point of
Oh,
view, it's
yeah.
10th largest AMC. And I think it has all grown organically because,
Yeah.
in ETF, in passives, the
Yeah.
distribution push is not there many times.
Very
It
true.
again proves a very important point from the industry point of view, financial industry, not in the mutual fund industry. If what is good for the investor, he'll find a way.
Yeah.
And when we acquired it, I think one of the philosophy at that point of time, one of the response to a query I had got somebody from the industry was, um, "Abhi mat karo, baad mein dekhenge." And I told him the other way around. I think reality is, I think I see myself as an entrepreneur, as a promoter of the company, and I think I'm going to be around for 20, 25 years,
Yeah.
30 years.
Yeah.
I'm happy to invest today, even if results come after 5 or 10 years. So, and today here we are. I mean, it's not about ETF. I think the philosophy is keeping it simple and keeping the investor in mind, even if it compromised profitability in short term. But because of sheer volume,
Yeah.
today it is. I mean, if we were to ever look at it from pure standalone profitability of that vertical, it is one of the most profitable
So
AMCs.
this was the first part of my interview of Sandeep Sikka. I hope you all enjoyed it really, and it was very informative, just like I found it informative and interesting. But there's much more to come. We will again publish a second part of this interview. Look forward to have all of you guys join and watch again. Thanks for watching.